Hey folks, and welcome to Ability Maine's This Way Right Storytime. I'm Mike. I'm a writer and former webmaster of Ability Maine. We have a much smarter and more intelligent woman who does our web design and website hosting now. And I don't do a lot of writing right now. I still do write, but I like doing this story time because, one, I think it's a lot more accessible for people to listen and catch things versus trying to write things, which can change over time. And then, especially with legislation going through the state house right now, stuff in the federal um, 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 stuff is pretty much just more issues with, again, it's more like um, the time in, like with the state house, a lot of laws become enacted towards the end of the year or towards more the March through June type of year. So to write about something in February, it'll be very a lot of addendums or waiting for work sessions or votes or and that type of thing, or things being tabled or things being dragged out and dragged on and whatever. This is a bib, by the way, just because I'm having one of those days where my body just isn't working well. Although my brain's working fine, body's not so well. But be that as it may, it's been a really weird week for me. Maine Care, if you receive Maine Care, the big news is that Maine Care member services is down when it comes to trying to get prior authorizations or get approvals for any prescriptions. Prescriptions also mean DME. This is a computer problem. Some are saying and positing that it could be a Cisco-related router or Cisco-related software issue. Cisco is a brand of technological backbone of the internet. About 45% of all routers in the U.S. are Cisco routers, so they're not really used in the consumer market, but they're basically the backbone of the internet, and there's some pretty well-known exploits that are being used right now in the national economy, and that have also been hitting the medical sector. So there's been cyber attacks all throughout the medical sector this week, which has affected Change Health. Change Health is actually known at one point as McKesson. If you don't know what McKesson is like the largest DME supplier to the state of Maine. So anything that's adult diapers, anything that's medical supplies, DME goods, diabetes supplies, diabetes testing supplies, that's all through McKesson. Even stuff like McKesson goes through a gazillion different names. They are such a huge company. They go through different names on Amazon. They're not a bad company. It's just Change Health is a huge company, and they got they're part of the cyber attack. They are definitely part of the cyber attack, according to information on Reddit. And Northern Lights Healthcare, which I believe is in Mid Coast, Maine, also has some issues with a cyber attack going on, or at least there's reported some issues with that. combining that, AT&T is saying they had issues with their phone systems, and when AT&T has a network, they also they sublet their network to other carriers. So like Cricket and Mint and other carriers are also on AT&T, and so some of those are down. From what I've been hearing and reading, my roommate has AT&T. It doesn't seem to be affecting Maine so much. I heard more the Midwest and Southwest. But having all this going on at once is really hard because break it down. If you're a person who needs prescription, antibiotics, like was reading, can cost like several $100 for cough syrup or something like that, and trying to get paid for out of pocket's almost ridiculous. So Medicare did send an email out to members yesterday, Thursday night after 5. I'm not sure how it's going to help people today or tomorrow or next week, but at least it gets people aware of the situation. So that's a kind of a screwed up issue because, again, we are so dependent on computers to get to places. I mean, I use Amazon to get my stuff, but even that, I mean, Amazon may not be an issue, but I know that McKesson's other brands, they have different names throughout the states, are all on Amazon. So, this can cause some major issues, especially for disabled, especially if you need medication. I have medication that was running out tomorrow, and luckily I got it earlier. Yeah, it's that type of stuff that's I panic about at night. So additionally, yesterday at the State House, medical marijuana caregivers of Maine was there to present the information about medical marijuana and their adult use. It's the State House events are actually really good, and something I really think is a really great idea for people to attend. I know there is a State House event on the 29th, which is a week from yesterday, with a bunch of different disability rights organizations. The Secretary of State's office is going to be there, and I believe Jen Endicott at Disability Rights Maine is going to be the person that you can contact. And that's J Endicott at drma.org for that event. I don't know if I'll be going. My car is not in the best of shape. But anyway, to recap on the medical marijuana stuff, which has nothing to do with Disability Rights Maine, let me make sure that I say that. Absolutely nothing to do with that, because I don't think Disability Rights Maine wants me to know to have any connection with MMCM, and that's just because of their legal funding issues. So, this week there were some work sessions on a bill, LD 1819. We have not talked about this, but it's going to create a medical cannabis advisory commission, and Alternative Health Board, and it has a pretty good uh, 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 sponsors. It's got wide sponsors from both parties. Not sure what's going on with that, but I will could probably do some sort of quick hold on. Give me 1 second. So work session, it's been tabled as of the 21st. It's been carried over on the 23rd. It was tabled on the 21st. It's been approved and carried over approved last year. Work session was held this year. It was tabled, and there is another work session scheduled for next Wednesday at 1. So it's been tabled till Wednesday at 1. At LD 1819, which goes to set up a commission that would, or advisory commission to oversee the medical cannabis alternative health. Create the Maine Medical Cannabis Advisory Commission and Maine Cannabis Alternative Health Board. And so there is a hearing on the 28th at 1, according to Maine legislative.maine.gov. Additionally, in the adult use side, there's an amendment to amend some of the laws, reporting, tracking, and reporting and tracking adult use cannabis. That's more because it's just a really expensive thing. And then LD 1952, which is to allow on-site cannabis consumption, which actually would be a really great thing. I've never been LD 1952 would create on-site places to smoke on-site, like they are in Amsterdam. They don't have that in Colorado, but they have private clubs, but it's expensive, like hundreds of dollars to get involved, so it's not really a tourist thing at all. In Colorado, you can't really smoke in your car, you're not supposed to. And you're not supposed to smoke outside, and it's absurd. I'm showing that as of right now, LD it's been carried over. There was a work session, and it was voted not passed in the this is the committee for, I believe it's so yeah, it's been carried over. It's basically has a lot not passed, and it went to Veterans and Legal Affairs. So as of this week, It was really not passed in committee, which is kind of sad because it is something that really would be nice for people with disabilities to have. It would also be a boon for small business owners in Maine, as well as the Maine tourists board. But having to be able to do anything that actually helps people in Maine with um, uh, um, um, actual things. So. And in other news, actually, before I go further, there was a couple of things in Maine that were really interesting that I actually can go to. And earlier this month, and I didn't see anything on this on the Disability Rights main website beforehand, so I'm sorry that it's not, we didn't publish it, we didn't talk about it beforehand, we just didn't get any information. It's on the Bangor Daily News website. This is a story that has to do with the Supreme Court of Maine calling out the state for failing to assist a family with disabilities, overturned a lower court order that terminated a mother-child relationship, ruling the state fails to provide medical services to the child and mother under Maine care. The ACLU and Disability Rights Maine filed an amicus brief with the court last summer, arguing the state inappropriately terminated the mother's parental rights because she was unable to provide complex nursing care for her child and should have made available some Maine care to the state's Medicaid program. The lower court agreed and asked the lower court to consider whether the mother had intellectual disability that would have required the state to provide services to help her rehabilitate and reunite with her child. Zach Hyden, who's awesome, of the ACLU Maine, which is also awesome, called the ruling is a victory for disabled families all over Maine. So the case is about my family, but the impact will be widely felt. This case exposes massive failures in the Maine child welfare system, a lack of resources to comply with the law, putting in disregard for the rights of people with disabilities. And the court was quite clear that things need to change in Maine, Hyden said. This is from the BGN. A spokesman for the state says the law court's decision highlights challenges for services availability at the Department of Health and Human Services continues to address. And the Department of Health and Human Services has been going through ridiculous amounts of problems with their staffing. They are dealing with some really horrible situations with their child welfare and family safety issues. In this article, basically this is proof of that, and this article was also part of a partnership with the Maine Public Media, the Maine NPR news affiliate. The second story, this is really kind of disconcerting, and I might actually write something about this to the Maine campus, which is, the Maine campus is the University of Maine's prestigious student newspaper. I actually got my start there. I wrote there over 25 years ago. I wrote there for 2 years, 3 years, 96, 97, 98. Covered a bunch of stuff and got published all of that in a book coming up soon. You like, excuse me, it's just, it does take a long time when you're doing all this talking. My mouth just has a hard time dealing with the drinking, the dry mouth, and the drooling all at once. So I do apologize. And we were trying to do something with captioning, but we can't figure out how to do it. We bought a brand new laptop. The laptop that we bought doesn't have a camera that supports doing story times or doing Facebook videos. So we're stuck with the iPad that we're using, which works for us. But I don't know how to get this because when you Google it, Facebook makes it sound like it's really easy and it's anything but. So this story is actually an opinion piece about campus accessibility in Maine. And I will preface this by saying I went to school there 30 years ago. I would have been a student. I started there. But it was never perfect, and some of the issues brought up in this opinion piece are issues I dealt with and was told to shut about and just deal with because I'll get my accommodation. So that's how this stuff is still going on. It was never the best place, but it was actually pretty big because they had a friend of mine named Bill who is a nonverbal person, a person who didn't communicate and was quadriplegic with cerebral palsy and was awesome. And it is awesome. He's a great friend of mine. And he did a lot of change in terms of how systems are working in terms of parking and stuff. But reading this, it seems kind of frustrating. So this was a piece that is by Brian Buzzle on February 2nd, 2024, and it's campus accessibility is failing disabled students. Despite being a flagship state university, this university in Maine is sorely lacking in disability accreditations required by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Physical access for those with disabilities is anemic at all levels of the university, in housing, in the classroom, and in the dining halls. The dining hall is a cornerstone of the undergraduate living experience, yet this experience is not entirely equitable for those struggling with disabilities. Since this is Sodexo takeover, so I believe Aramark actually, now I'm not really sure who ran the dining facilities when I was going there, but Sodexo runs now. The day's menu at each display hall has been displayed on, small, highly placed screens. These items are often listed as much too small even for those without disabilities and are practically useless the students who do have disabilities. The dining hall issues were exacerbated by the closure of the Wells complex. And I was surprised because Wells was never open when I was there. With Wells shuttered and reopening date continually pushed back, and Wells was considered the most physically accessible dining hall for disabled students. Sorry, I meant that to be known. And it was actually, as a proof of that, I actually got a national speaker to the campus in 1997, and I actually specifically chose to have it at Wells Commons, which we never actually, when I was there, was there an actual dining hall that was in functional usage as the dining hall. It was more used as a conference center and a concert venue and a speech center. Speeches were given up there. So when John Hockenberry spoke there in 1997, we had these speeches at Wells Commons. So I'm surprised that it was even used as a dining hall since I've been to school there, because it wasn't used when I was a student there. And I literally lived right next door to Wells in Hart Hall, and in Dining Hall for a little bit, in one summer, before it became an office. We always tried to visit the less successful York and Hilltop dining centers, and those are atrocious, or they were back when I went to school. Especially for trouble pills living in Oak and Hancock section of campus, due to the distance between that area and York and Hilltop. Additionally, several residence halls are sorely lacking in accommodations for disabled students. That's saying it lightly. And I'm going to elaborate on how bad the dining hall situation is. My freshman year, I actually almost died at Maine because they kept something that wasn't supposed to be on the served that meal out, and it ended up having peanuts, and I almost died, and spent the night in the hospital, and take a week off school, and have to basically live on microwave food and food from the cafeterias, and not cafeterias, they had restaurants on campus. So they had a small, back when I was in school, they had a Pizza Hut and a Taco Bell and a bunch of different bakeries and coffee shops and stuff on campus. You could use your main card at. But it wasn't the same. It was horrible and it was expensive. In terms of accommodations for residence halls, I had to have my own bathroom, and the only one that I could, for the first 3 years, I was in Hart Hall, which was fine, but it wasn't accessible. It was really difficult with one of my friends who was hard to place to visit. We had to take him out of his wheelchair, put him into my friend's borrowed chair. It was ridiculous. I was allowed to get Estabrook, because they had my own bathroom, because of my medical needs. But that was it. I never got a chance to have a cooperative living experience or anything like that. And so, additionally, this makes a lot more sense. And whoever wrote this, Mr. Blizzle, is really nailing this. And it's problems that have been going on for a So additionally, several residence halls were slowly locking in accommodations for disabled residents. At least for 3 halls, Cumberland, Androscoggin, and Gannett do not have wheelchair accessible elevators and insufficient space for wheelchair using students to adequately rotate their equipment, while both Rustic and Kennebec are likely ramps for those using wheelchairs or crutches. Students in these 2 dorms are forced to use a steep set of granite stairs, or doing the simple task of entering the dorm, a Herculean task for disabled first-year students. Formerly, Student Accessibility Services had a band that showed disabled students around campus. That program has been discontinued for several years. That's a shame because it was really necessary, especially in the winter where the ice up in Orno is ferocious compared to the ice anywhere. The lack of accommodations may potentially make students feel pressure to seek on-campus housing, which is not subject to the same regulations as those at the university, may expose disabled students to a whole new host of problems. Again, that's true. I basically lived on campus my entire life to avoid those problems. The inequities extend to the classroom as well. Some academic buildings, such as South Stevens Hall, lack elevators entirely, and disabled students hoping to attend a class on the second floor of South Stevens Hall will simply be unable to take the class. That's not true. Classes change all the time for a number of reasons. I think that's a little bit misconstrued because if you need to take a class and it was in an incredible place, it would not be difficult to have that change. For those students who are not able to take the classes by negligence and design flaws, again, that's, I would like to see where somebody was actually be denied a class. I mean, it's great to write this, and it could happen, but I don't see how somebody who might take class couldn't go talk to the professor and get it changed. It's not that difficult. It happens all the time when I was in class. I'm all for supporting people when they have great points, even when they have mediocre points, but this just doesn't pass the spell test. I've worked with administration at college, but maybe it's a thing. But anyway, be that as it may, for those students, the university does offer peer note-taking services to students who are less able to take notes while the class is in session. However, these students are forced to rely on auditory note-taking services for a semester before permitting to use peer note-taking services. I don't know anything about that. The university's motivation is doing so is evident. Saving money. I'm not so sure it's saving money. I don't think that $50 and $100 in bookstore. Okay, sorry, I should probably read the story I'm going to reference. The auditory note-taking requires no additional monetary input from the university, but student note-takers are paid between $50 and $100 in bookstore credits for this service. I don't think $50 and $100 in bookstore credits is all that big of a deal until the university makes millions of dollars each year in income. But I could be wrong. I don't think that bookstore credits should be paid as labor for what is note-taking is a labor thing that should be paid by the hour. But that's just my own personal opinion. Unnecessary barriers to an adequate education can only disrupt a student's academic schedule. That's true. SAS, which has been described as tough to access, requires accessible documentation for those with a lot of student disabilities, requiring them to be published within the last 2 years. Students to have documents this recent was turned to a really long wait list. They're typically of the American workplace healthcare system. That's true, but again, if you're going to college, you're going to need to have your all of your testing. You need to have accommodations for your testing, and you got to prove that. So you would probably have something that would be within 2 years to reapply for your testing within that. I understand there are a huge wait list, but again, if you have a long standing disability, your IEP or your 504 program, both those are federally mandated as a disabled student and required. But point well taken, it is a good story. It's a good painting piece. Is the Maine administration remains serious about the welfare of its students, considering efforts are required to make this campus more accessible for its disabled students by improving physical access to classrooms, dormitories, dining halls, and allocating more funding to accessibility services. On that note, there's nothing I can disagree with. In fact, I would also say fund more for the Disability Studies program, and it's too bad that there's not more mention of the CCIDS program at Maine, because it would probably be really helpful in dealing with some of the issues that this person brings up. Additionally, I was going to talk about, it's been a while already, it's been over 40 minutes, and I'm exhausted. I am going to talk about the Iris Gray School. So, in this 2 weeks ago, Agnes Gray School in Paris, Maine, was closed. It was closed due to a number of issues, including ADA safety, ADA non-compliance, mold, and other safety issues. And it's been closed for good as well. I'm working. It's not safe for students or staff. It was built in Demon. It was built in the late 1800s. It's been deemed an iron harrow due to multiple safety features, lack of adequate fire protection, functional emergency exits outdated and poorly functioning plumbing and electrical systems, exterior degradation, including roof that sheds decayed shingles during poor weather, exterior and interior stairwells are not up to code and violate years beyond its serviceable life. There were children in this school up till 2 weeks ago, I believe. Um, uh, and we don't want them to seem to have to leave school before the school year's out. It's disturbing thing to see this. Never do I think we should put these kids in jeopardy. I'm overwhelmed. Basically, they had to close the school, and since then, uh, um, they had to change they dispersed the schools to the students to different schools. Um, uh, uh, and they're saying that they're going to replace the schools and this is just basically talking about how they would have to come up with all this money to rehabilitate it, and it's basically 4 times what the physical budget per year is. So, and to completely rehabilitate it would be way too long. So, they're saying that they're trying to figure out how to build a replacement, but they don't have any real guidelines on that. So, and one of the major reasons for that was ADA non-compliance, and the fact that like the boiler was really messed up, and a bunch of other things. I'm gonna finish this with one last story. It's a quick story. It's new research that that shows that a decades-old drug can alleviate or help some anxiety issues with kids and young adults with autism. Individuals who on the spectrum who took the blood pressure medication propranolol exhibited less anxiety after 3 months compared to those given a placebo, according to findings published recently in the journal Psychopharmacology. It seems kind of interesting because it's so hard to find anything that works well for anxiety besides benzodiazepines. To find the blood pressure medication is interesting. This study, just to give some, has 69 participants with autism between the ages of 7 and 24, randomly assigned to take propranolol or a placebo. They were assessed at the onset and then again after 12 weeks for about 3 months. The researchers found that anxiety declined in those with the propranolol, NOLL group, but no changes were observed in the social communication skills. Findings could show that propranolol could serve as a helpful intervention for reducing anxiety for individuals with autism, said David Bernstoff, a clinician at the University of Missouri Thompson Center on Autism and Neurodevelopment, who had the study. The drug has been around since the 1960s. It's very inexpensive. There's been a lot of interest in trying to find drugs that can work. There's been 2 so far. Antipsychotics, risperidone, pre-approval that the FDA approved for irritability associated with autism. So, having something that would be not psychiatric based or not something like a antipsychotic would be much better for people with autism. I guess that's gonna do it right now. There's probably a lot more information I can talk to you about, but we're kind of about an hour. I'm exhausted beyond words. I've talked as much as I can, and I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope to have another story time sometime very soon. Have a great day, and be well, and take care, and hopefully the sun will be getting better, and the daylight savings time's going to be happening soon, and we'll go out and we'll be doing more things with Storytime. Going out on the road and doing some stuff. Who knows? Thanks for watching, and comment, and thanks, and appreciate you for spending time with me today. Bye.